Hello and welcome back to LonelyMan BGs, and this video on Kingdom Rush Rift in Time. So imagine, you are the protector of a brand new kingdom, built thousands of years ago. And imagine, just for a moment, you also have friends to play a game with, which is a rarity these days. You and your imaginary group of friends will suffer a campaign of onslaughts from the infamous Time Mage. Kingdom Rush Rift in Time is a cooperative tower defense game for 1 to 4 players, lasting between 60 and 90 minutes depending on the scenario. The core game comes with a campaign booklet which lists a series of 10 unique scenarios that players will engage in. At the beginning of the effort, groups of lowly enemies like goblins and other creatures will assault the kingdom with a single point of dispatch. Once the crusade is in full force though, players will defend against various areas of entry and face off against the minions of time like Lord Blackburn and the youthful and aged Time Mages. So, let's talk a little bit about how Kingdom Rush Rift in Time actually plays. To start, each scenario is made up of a number of these map tiles, which will be arranged to create a path to the kingdom. In the first scenario, Rift in Time, the tiles are arranged like this, with a couple of spawn tokens assigned at the top of the map. At the bottom of the map, an exit token is placed, which has a number of health tokens depending on which difficulty setting the players have chosen. Throughout the game, enemies will travel along the path, and players must prevent their access to the kingdom using towers, character abilities, and perhaps a stray feline. The road to the kingdom in the scenarios begins as a simple pathway, but as players move on to more difficult entries, the map becomes more complex, with various points of entry leading to the exit token. A number of horde cards placed within horde trays are on the path at the game start. These are flipped face up to reveal the enemy side before the game begins. The enemy side of a horde card shows a variety of enemy configurations, and in order to defeat the horde card before it crosses into the kingdom, the players must Tetris over each of the enemies with some sort of attack, either from heroes or towers. If a horde manages to make its way past the exit token, the number of damage to the kingdom corresponds to the number of enemies still showing on the card. If the kingdom ever has 0 heart tokens, the kingdom has been overrun, and the players have failed their duties as protectors of the realm. In addition to your average horde, there are portal cards, which must be destroyed in order to win the game. If a portal card ever makes its way into the kingdom, the players immediately lose the game. Before we go through some of the specifics about hordes and portals, let's talk about how players will prevent these hostile forces from entering the realm. During game setup, each player will choose a hero that they will act as, and each hero has a corresponding miniature and hero board. Additionally, each hero has their own specific damage tile they take, and they also choose a color, then take all corresponding building site cards of that color. Building site cards are placed during setup according to the scenario booklet, and these are the locations where the player that chose that color may construct their towers during gameplay. Hero boards indicate a few things. First, the hero's health. Heroes take damage in specific events, and if thoroughly beaten, the hero must take a turn off to regenerate and cool off for a bit. Next, the board indicates what towers the player begins with. In a 2-player game, Ignis, the Inferno hero, begins with 2 mage towers and a single bombard tower. Each hero also has a basic attack and a few empty spaces where the hero can use special abilities depending on the scenario. For example, Fire and Brimstone allows Ignis to place one of these tiles, and if it covers exactly 3 enemies, he can place additional tiles on adjacent hordes. On the other hand, Heavenly Chaos allows Lilith to place 2 soldiers and a couple of her special tiles. Kingdom Rush is played over a series of rounds, split into 6 phases. In the first phase, new hordes are spawned from each of the spawn tokens. Phase 2 is where all the fun stuff happens, and it's made up of player actions, where each player uses their hero and puts towers into play. The key mechanism of the game involves these towers. At the start of the game, players begin with a few level 1 towers, of which there are 4 types: Militia, Bombard, Mage, and Archer. At the top of these cards is a symbol showing what damage tiles they disperse when used, as well as directional arrows, which dictate what spaces they can affect. Players will play these from their hand on a building site of matching color in this phase. Then, the tower immediately executes its attack, firing the shown tile at a horde within range. In order to upgrade these towers, which players will want to do, players will have to pass tower cards from their hand instead of playing them in the current round, which means fewer present enemies destroyed in exchange for future extra bad guy killing power. Whenever players defeat horde cards, they earn crystal tokens, which can be spent to buy additional towers during Phase 6. Now, this is where Kingdom Rush is unlike other tower defense games. Every round, during Phase 5, players pick up their previously played towers, as well as the upgraded towers passed to them, so they can play them the next round in whatever orientation they so choose. I promised that I would go over some of the enemies in depth, so let's go for that. First off, portals are crazy and can only be targeted by towers. The middle tile of each portal is off limits and cannot be covered, as it indicates the minimum level tower that can attack them. Then, once the tower has dealt its damage to a portal, it is flipped over and returned to the supply at the end of the round. Enemies in general have various types. Some are flying, others increase the speed of the entire horde if they are not covered, and there might even be ghosts, and some are just plain big. Finally, let's look at these bosses. When fighting Lord Blackburn, there are no portals, and instead, he has 4 life cards that must be defeated and fully covered in order to win. The Time Mages are similar, but move towards a white space in the middle of the play area where they come together and then begin moving towards the exit tile. And this concludes our overview of Kingdom Rush Rift in Time. To learn more about the game, be sure to check out the links in the description. Thanks for watching.